Moneypenny! Moneypenny, get in here!
Mr. Connery, for the last time, my name is
Now listen,
Rita.
you're my assistant, I'll call you whatever goddamn place. I've just learned that they've been making James Bond films without me. James Bond films with Sean Connery. Who could think of such a thing?
Sean, they've been making new Bond movies without you in them for about 40 years now.
What?
I am a huge fan of James Bond. I have been ever since I was a kid. You know, I grew up watching the movies and playing the video games, and I got really invested in the new Daniel Craig series, and I love it. Well, Quantum of Solace is okay. And so I was really upset that I could not review Skyfall for you guys earlier, but unfortunately Stupid Sandy wiped me out of power and internet for a long time, so I am just now able to make this review. As a huge James Bond fan, and someone who's particularly partial to the Sean Connery movies, well, a lot of people are. So I was very surprised when Casino Royale turned out to be my favorite Bond movie. And now I'm even more surprised, and now I am yet again surprised that Skyfall is very close to being my favorite Bond movie. I haven't quite decided yet, but yes, it is that good. Believe what people are telling you. So as any good Bond movie should, it starts you off right in some action. This time, they do another chase scene, which is one of the most popular and one of my favorite scenes in Casino Royale, is the chase scene on the construction site in the very beginning of the movie. And this one has a similar chase scene when they're relaying information back and forth between MI6 and Bond and this female partner that you're not really sure who she is, and it does drop you in the middle of action. You're not sure what's going on. Motorcycles, trains, and cranes, well, construction vehicles are involved, and it is pretty damn awesome. Great way to start the movie. Then we start right off into, actually, the beginning does remind me somewhat of You Only Live Twice beginning scenes. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then it goes right into the Adele song with an amazing opening title sequence. They are always fantastic. Despite the quality of the movie, you can always rely on the theme songs and the opening title sequences. And I really loved Adele's theme song. I thought the song Skyfall was really great, felt like a classic Bond song, despite one of my favorite songs being, you know, appropriately along with Casino Royale, You Know My Name by Chris Cornell. That was not really a classic Bond sound, but I'm fine with that because it is still one of my favorites, up there with Shirley Bassey's Goldfinger, because she does some of the best ones. And along with that, this song, Skyfall, actually reminded me somewhat of Diamonds Are Forever. So anyway, I started the movie super happy. I just can't go through a Bond movie. I can't get through the opening title sequence without just feeling awesome, especially here when it is just entrancing. And so then it really gets into the movie and they start to backtrack somewhat, providing some really good exposition and not really just flat out explaining what just happened for some time you're really kind of unsure. They really spare no time setting up the stakes of this movie to say that, you know, very very inclusive things are happening, things that are hitting close to home for these characters, and taking out some, you know, big-name people, and just, you know, with M being scrutinized, you get the Prime Minister in there, you know what's going on is a big deal, and you really feel that intensity and importance. And this great urgency in Bond to not, you know, not only to find this villain, but to protect M. Daniel Craig and Judi Dench have always had a really great back and forth, but it is just, they capitalize it so perfectly in this movie, and their relationship is very important because M is a central character in this movie. If you think about it, she's kind of the Bond girl. Bérénice Marlohe, who you think is the Bond girl, because she just kind of seems like one, is just not on screen enough to really think of her as the central one for this movie. So I'm just saying, you know, Judi Dench. And to speak of perhaps the greatest Bond villain since Blofeld, Javier Bardem as Silva. I forget what his, you know, other name turns out to be, but he is just amazing. He makes this movie, oh, just exponentially better. His presence on screen is so dominating, especially for Daniel Craig, who really does a great job of carrying every movie he's in, especially as Bond, and they just, it's like this split of power between them, and they have such a great on-screen chemistry, including a very overtly homoerotic scene that kind of, you know, makes me think Javier Bardem's the Bond girl in this movie. I'm just thinking about how many times Daniel Craig gets in these situations where he's a captive and just these very sexual things going on. If you've seen Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, you know what I'm referring to. You must really be into the whole submission thing. Anyway, Javier Bardem's performance is this maniacally playful and giddy persona that is so villainous because, as I said, he will kill people and be smiling and happy and playing music and just giggly. And it is so unsettling for all of those reasons because there is something very, very dark driving all of those misrepresented emotions. And they come out in this very flamboyant way, but then all of a sudden he flips the switch because there is, some really deep underlying cause for this. And when they explain that backstory, and he gets to the things that this lust for vengeance and justice, as he sees it through his eyes, and you just see the really dark undertones of his character, and when they come out, are so vicious that it is so disconcerting when he switches back to this playful attitude. All the other performances are great. Daniel Craig just puts out another great outing. Judi Dench is more than great in this one. Ralph Fiennes, or Ray Fiennes, whatever the hell you want to call him, he is great, and he becomes more important towards the end of the movie. And I really do, I think he fits into the series nicely. Just another great British actor to add to the cast. Ben Winshaw as the new Q. Great. Albert Finney just comes out of nowhere at the end of the movie, and he's fantastic. Is a mix of comic relief and backstory, so that was awesome. I think Helen McCroy's in there somewhere. Naomie Harris, who, I won't say who she is, kind of a twist, well, a reveal, you could say, about her, which is great. And to talk about some of the action, it is so fast-paced and intense, really great scenery, setups, and execution for all of them. And for Bond movies, there is a certain suspension of disbelief, and this one doesn't rely on it as heavily as a lot of other Bond movies do, because it's not quite as ridiculous. It is much more grounded, as you've seen in Quantum of Solace or Casino Royale. But nonetheless, is it exciting and dramatic. The climax is just extremely explosive, all over the place, amazing, heart-pumping action, just an adrenaline shot. You just want to kick and shout. It's awesome. And the gritty nature of these last three Bond movies is ever present here. This movie, now being the third in this outing, is, and kind of like a completely new step for Bond, because all the other Bond movies I see in just a completely different section than this one. So, and as Casino Royale being the origin story, now it's moving on, and while it in so many ways is a departure from the cliches of the series, in so many other ways is incorporating some of the staples and standards of Bond back into the series. And it is so great to see both of those things. On one side, I'm happy that I'm getting new material and it seems fresh, but on the other side, I'm seeing some of the classic things that are so endeared to me, and I love that. One of them is Q, and I'll tell you that because you see it in the trailer, obviously. The other two are somewhat big reveals in the movie, or have something to do with the plot. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't. And along with that are some great references to the older Bond movies, particularly the Sean Connery ones, in particular Goldfinger. I noticed there is a point where they reference they bring out one of the old Aston Martins, and they make a reference to the ejector seat, just Goldfinger, and with the mirror trick with Oddjob, they do somewhat of a... I'm not sure if that was supposed to be as a direct reference, or if I'm just seeing that. And they play the original Bond theme song, during one of those scenes, and I felt like I was watching a classic, an old Bond movie, and it was just the best theater experience. So much fun. Go out and see this movie with a big crowd. It is tons of... See what James Bond fans introduce it to new people. I saw it with a mix of people who have seen a lot of them and are big fans. One person was actually their first one. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I'm happy that at least it was Skyfall you started with, because it is awesome. Is it my favorite Bond movie? I'm not sure. I don't know if I like it better than Casino Royale. I'm not sure if I like it better than some of the Connery ones. One of the best tests of a Bond movie, especially if I wind up liking it better than Casino Royale, is how it holds up on repeat viewings. Most Bond movies have great replay value. I can watch them again and again, they don't get boring. And one of the things that makes Casino Royale my favorite is because I can watch that movie over and over again. And I do aim my favorite one just because it holds up so well, and each time I seem to like it more. So if Skyfall can do that, it might become my favorite, but I'm not quite sure yet. But it is very close to the top of my favorite of the year. Definitely in the top 5, very close up there. You'll see when I do my list at the end of the year. Just go see this movie. It is amazing. It's doing great at the box office. Make it do better. Screw Twilight. Go see this movie because it deserves your money.
So, Daniel Craig, huh? You think you could just steal roles from me, Sean Connery, and I'll have nothing to say about it?
What the fuck is going on here? Why am I chained up in this room?
Now, you'll find that that's soon enough. But first, I want you to know who's going to be playing James Bond from now on. It's going to be me, not you.
Do you expect me to give you the role?
No, Mr. Craig, I expect you to die.